Have you ever listened to a person talk for less than a minute and known you weren't going to get along with that person? What did they say? Story 1. She showed up to a little get-together, and the person who invited her said that they would be taking bets on who could sit with her for more than 30 minutes. $10 per person, winner kept the pot. I assumed they were just being rude and planned to tell her of her friend's plan as soon as she showed up. She walked in, looked at me, and scoffed and asked if the gray car outside belonged to me. I said yes. She told me that with the money that car cost, I could have bought something nicer. Okay, well, whatever. I went to get a drink and sat to watch the crowd gather around her. I already didn't like her, but she went on to tell everyone about how she could never date someone who had a crappy credit score or couldn't pay their vehicle off after buying it. Someone who wanted to quit the contest asked for a cigarette. She opened up her purse and showed everyone a fresh pack of smokes and then told everyone why she doesn't smoke and why anyone who asks for a cigarette is either too broke to buy them or doesn't plan ahead of time. The guy asked her for one of her cigarettes. She said no and put them back in her purse. She talked about all the cars she bought. Basically, her parents would co-sign for her and pay the car off to build her credit, and she would give them a few thousand to pay them back. She was nuts and wouldn't stop talking. I disliked her, but was also fascinated with her. She was super weird. Update. So I've gotten a few questions about this girl and that night. Also, who is Gina? There were something like 15 to 20 people there, and most entered the contest. I think the pot got up to $100 to $120. The winner was just some guy who I didn't know. He spent the money getting everyone McDonald's and beer, so he was pretty cool. She was about 22 to 23. She had just finished getting her high school diploma because she had dropped out to make money, according to her. I think she sold some milkshake things and fitness plans for some MLM. For those wondering what happened to her, I'm not 100% what happened to her. She wasn't my friend, but she did show up to a few parties I was at, and she seemed calmer. She used to bring her own bottle of liquor and wouldn't share, which was kind of funny because on one occasion they caught her filling her bottle with a bottle of Jack that someone had brought and left on the kitchen counter, but she swore that all she drank was Hennessy and Fireball. If she doesn't smoke, why does she have a pack in her purse? And it's not even for sharing, given someone asked and she said no. I'm not gonna lie. I started this video thinking, I'm gonna hear a bunch of super judgmental people say some stuff and I'm just gonna disagree with them and be like, no, come on, you gotta give the person a chance. Story 1 proved me wrong. I don't think I'd want to talk to this person. I feel my body trying to twist and recoil away from this story. So I guess if there's a lesson to learn, it's don't be this person. Story 2. Years ago, my ex-husband and I went to see a movie with an older colleague of his. Before the movie, we had dinner at a chain restaurant / steakhouse type place. Staff on the floor was all 20-ish. I never met this man before, but in the first few minutes of sitting down and looking at the menu, he very confidently told us how he came there a lot and flirted with the female staff because they love the attention. The best part? His daughter worked there. All I could think was how I would literally cringe myself through the floor if I was 20 and my 50-year-old dad came into my place of work and pestered my coworkers because he didn't understand that they only put up with him because they're paid to do so. My papa would come into the restaurants that I worked in. I usually was his server, but once someone else got his table, my coworkers would fight to take him. My papa was a funny dude that left enormous tips and joked with everyone around him that was cool with it. He was one of those tall, skinny guys that just looks like a guy you could talk to. I remember I had told him about one of my coworkers having a rough time. He came in, specifically requested her, and then left her a $100 bill as a tip. When I got home, he asked if she had gotten the tip. Of course she had, and then broke down hugging me, telling me that my grandfather was the best person she'd ever met. She wasn't wrong. Reminds me of a relative's boyfriend's dad. He was a regular at the bar she worked, but got banned. Didn't get banned when he slapped another waitress's butt, same age as the girl dating his son, yuck. But the next night he got banned after bragging to that girl's boyfriend about slapping her and trying to start a fight with him. All right, so the OP and the second comment, don't ever be that person. Older guys in the 50s, I know that you can be gray foxes and you can be you can be pretty charming. I'll give you that much. Don't do this. If you're flirting with 20-some-year-old waitresses, you've gone from being like, a silver fox to being gross, just gross. But to story number, the first comment, part 2 of this 3-part story, that person is awesome. Funny and polite, leaving big tips. That's how all of us should be in restaurants. It's so nice. Just make it a pleasant experience for everyone. Good on him. Story 3. Literally last night, I was at a local pool comp and went to introduce myself to my second round opponent. We shake hands and his first words to me are, "Weak effing handshake, bro," followed by, "I hope you like banter, mate," then proceeded to talk crap about every aspect of my game. The worst part was, he was actually good at pool, so it just seemed like he was generally a C. Some of his other opponents got it a lot worse than I did as well. Highlight of the night was when the comp host basically yelled in his face, "Everyone in this room effing hates you," which received a round of applause. He didn't seem to understand why that was. Just banter, bro. Edit. The comp is 90% regulars that are there every week. This was the guy's first time playing there. He knew no one except for the couple of mates he brought. I can assure people calling me a liar that he was universally hated. He ended up losing the final, which received more of a response than the host yelling at him, but yeah, LOL. I don't even know why I'm responding to this. I guess I've never had this much attention on anything I've ever shared on the internet. Hate when people use banter as a loophole for just straight up being an a-hole. Banter is cool and all, but when you can't read the room, haven't established a proper connection with the opponent yet, and talk in a way that makes it seem like you mean it, you're just a socially awkward person with main character syndrome. Story 4. They talk negatively about someone else in a very judgy way. There was this mom in my daughter's school who seemed to know everyone. She talked to me and she spoke so bad about these people. Then moments later, I saw her interacting in a friendly way with those she was judging. My eyes rolled so much I could see my brain telling me not to get involved with her. And I was right, because by the time school year ends, her friends hated her and they were talking behind her back too. A girl that used to be my best friend is like this. It was the weirdest thing to see her crab about all these people, then have Insta photos up a few days later with them. I didn't notice she did this until our friendship was on the line, so I asked other people if she did this, and they said yes too. That kind of betrayal hurts. I'm sorry you experienced that. Two-faced people are one of the hardest to deal with. Story 5. The parents of one of my kids' friends at school said there was a mouse in their house and his wife wanted him to kill it, but he didn't want to kill any creatures. He wants to make friends with them instead. But wife insisted, so he threw his shoe at it and eventually managed to hit it, but it wasn't dead. So he threw his shoe at it another 4 times. It still wasn't dead, so he poured boiling water over it to kill it. It still didn't die, so he poured boiling water over it again. It still wasn't dead, so he decided to leave it alone in the hopes that it would peacefully pass away. The logic of being too squeamish to kill something and then instead decide to torture it to death slowly in the most agonizingly painful way absolutely blew my mind. My cats were torturing a mouse and not killing it because cats are not human and such morals did not apply to them, I guess. Anyway, I felt so bad for the poor thing, I picked it up with a plastic bag and snapped its neck because I couldn't stand to see it continue to suffer. Did I enjoy it? No! Do I like killing things? Hell no! But I'd rather give it a swift death than watch it suffer. It was honestly one of the hardest things I've had to do, but I did it because it felt wrong doing nothing. Good Lord! I mean, I know probably it was just this person being maybe too timid, and like, maybe this'll do it, but it's like, my dude, if you want to just put a mouse or some animal out of its misery, you can't just give it like a timid little like, and be dead now, please, and you're suffering. Like, you gotta go all into it, as unpleasant as that might be. It reminds me of my dad came across like what looked like, a bunch of cars parked up along the side of the road. A guy had hit a deer, but hadn't killed it. And so my dad gets out, there's a crowd of people, and this guy, like the deer, the back is broken, it can't move, but it's alive and in pain. And the guy was trying to like snap the deer's neck, They run into each other and trees at speeds that would explode us. You're not gonna snap its neck, you nut. And my dad went to his truck and got a hammer and just cracked the thing in the skull. Awful business. Terrible, but it put it out of its misery. Folks, it's so unpleasant, but you just gotta do it if you really want to make an animal not suffer. Story 6. New guy at work, first coffee break, he started complaining about his ex who had full custody of the kids for some unknowable reason, and also how he'd like to slash her throat with a rusty knife. Nice to meet you too. Don't think I'll be taking breaks with you. It was nice of him to clear up why his wife divorced him and why he couldn't be with his kids. Reminds me of that one guy a few years ago at work. Guy starts talking about what kind of crap work we're doing and then says, "Wouldn't surprise me if one day someone with a gun comes here and kills people." Right? Thank God this dude got fired a couple weeks later. Story 7. New guy started at my job. We were outside smoking on the first break. Keep in mind, I've never met nor spoken to this dude in my life. He walks up, lights up his cigarette, and says, "You know, I think my severe arachnophobia has transformed into an arachnophilia. I've been watching a lot of spider hentai while masturbating." Then he began to describe his new waifu pillow he bought, her name, and his plans to marry her. I was speechless. Edit. I work in a distribution warehouse for a clothing company. We were forklift drivers. He didn't last very long, but not because of the things he said. He was constantly late for work, and twice a week he'd show up in Crocs knowing damn well I've told him 100 times he needs closed-toe shoes. I'd have to send him home to change shoes. I told him to just keep a pair of shoes in his car so he has something to wear at work. Didn't work, and eventually I had to let him go for excessive tardiness and absenteeism. Listen, man, you can't just come into a thread and start up like this. Give other people a chance to participate before you just burn the whole thing down like this. This site is a communal experience, goddammit. I don't like to yuck other people's yums. If you like stuff like that, more power to you, I guess. But don't share that with someone you've just met. Or, even someone that you know pretty well, if you're not at that comfort level. And if you're just at that comfort level with everyone, you shouldn't be. You should be considerate of their comfort. Because I hate this. Story 8. Asked me, "Do you mind if I smoke?" Then proceeded to take out a crystal pipe. True story from my cabbie days. Two young blokes got in the back, a good halfway to effed up. One pulls out a cigarette, said, "Can I smoke this?" I said, "Sorry, mate, smoking is banned in these cabs. It's the law even for me." Then I added as a joke, "Weird they go to all the trouble with laws and signs and logos for smoking tobacco and nothing for smoking crack, eh?" No laugh in return, but 2 seconds later I hear the spark of a lighter. "What are you doing back there?" I reply with a lungful of smoke. "Smoking crack." I pretty much just had to shrug at that point. I set myself up for that, and I'd left myself F's all legs for standing on. I retired that joke from my recycled passenger banter. You live and learn. Story 9. New guy at work. Super fake by being overly excited and super overly comfortable with everyone in the first minute. He was all mommy and poppy to everyone and very overly touchy. We were almost all Hispanics there and everyone was uncomfortable. First phone call of the day, he hangs up cursing and taking it super personally that someone hung up on him. Daily occurrence in customer service. After about 6 months, I put in my 2-week notice solely because I couldn't work next to or with him anymore. He would also get overly gossipy and personal. My boss rejected my notice and transferred him. He couldn't stand the guy either. No one could. If I had to scroll too far to see this, people who try to force best friend vibes with everyone have 100% turned out to be creeps or psychos in my life. Like, effing chill. We don't know each other, and that's fine. We don't need inside jokes on the first day. I'm not literally your spirit animal. Always comes off so transactional, like, if I say the friendship things, I can get what I want from anyone. No, let it happen naturally. If we vibe, we vibe. If we don't, cool. All right, but there's a line where it's too much, because I've had people accuse me of being like fake as far as like how cheerful I am, and saying, I don't like how you're always just so fake coming in here acting like you're all happy and stuff. I am. That's who I am typically. I have my bad days, don't get me wrong. I have bad days. But I'm typically a pretty cheerful, goofy person. And some people think it's just an act I put on. And it's like, nah, I just like being happy. This is why I can't be about in the workforce. I'm irritating to people. Story 10. I was listening to the Nexivism podcast and the clip of the founder saying he has 225 IQ. If I walk into a room and heard someone say that, I'd walk right back out. LOL. I used to give tours at Universal Studios Hollywood and got hired/trained with a 26-year-old girl who would casually mention her 140 IQ several times. Congrats, Alana, and 10 years later, I see you're still giving those scripted tours. Story 11. There are different levels of being psychic. I'm on the purple level, so I can talk to the dead, said a new employee at my previous job. Oh, are you talking about D&D? I love fantasy stuff. Damn, I wish I had said that, but the most sane thing for me at the moment was just to get up and leave the lounge. Story 12. The quiet boy at school sat next to me and told me how hard he felt when he took a crap and how many times he ejaculated that way. I never sat next to him again. Are you from the UK, and was this kid's name Chris? Story 13. I was in a job interview once, and the manager cut me off mid-sentence to jump to a weird conclusion. Him. What do you think the performance of this algorithm would be? Me. Oh, it'll be N times him. Oh, you think it's going to be N? You think it'll be N? That's ridiculous. There's no way it would just be N. Me. You gotta let me finish speaking. He then cut me off mid-sentence twice more during our conversation. We didn't get along. Dude was a total tool. I hate people who do that. They don't listen to a thing you say like they're counting how long they have to let you talk before they can butt in with their obviously superior comments. Oh, no. I don't think I've ever had a boss who was quite like this, but when I've worked, especially in electronics, I've had customers who are like this. A customer who, came up and asked me, oh, well, I'm trying to do this, and so which router is going to be best for me? And we had, 6 different routers. And, it's like, okay, well, some of them are different networks. And I'm trying to think, he's giving me some weird information. So I was trying to think, which one should I recommend to him? And so I verbalized a little I think, and that is all that I got out. I said, and he's like, how about you go get someone who knows what they're talking about? What the hell, dude? So, and this is at Walmart. And so I had one other coworker there at the time. And I went over to him and said, this guy wants to talk to you. He went over to talk to that guy. The guy asked him the question. That coworker knows nothing about routers or computers. Why is he in electronics? Because he knew music and stuff at the time, music and movies. But so my coworker's like, oh no, you want to ask him, points to me. The guy looks at me suddenly realizing uh-oh, he knew he made a mistake. And I just went, and I can't show it, but you know which finger he got. I didn't even get in trouble for that. I think because maybe the guy was embarrassed, so I got lucky. Story 14. I met one of my new colleagues at a barbecue that was being hosted by our work. I, a man, drove with another coworker, a woman, and a friend of mine, so we arrived together. When I was alone for a moment, this guy, whom I've never spoken to before, comes up next to me and says, "Yo, dude, you hitting that?" Gestures to my friend. I said, "No, and she also has a boyfriend." He very exaggeratedly says, "Damn." Yada yada. He got fired 2 years later for harassing an intern. I got, "Why do you talk to girls like they're dudes? You'll never get laid like that." I was effing the woman he was referring to. Pretty sure he was jealous and knew the whole time. Just wanted to throw an insult out because she wasn't into him. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.